Hello everybody, I'm Stavros Panagakos from FM Bosnet, and in this section we will talk about defensive orientation and defensive instructions on formation 352. The most important aspect, without any doubt, is the movement of the back three. Here we'll talk for every specific position and for every specific defensive phase of the game. The three defensive units, the three central defenders, will have always one or two strikers in this position. Their role is one of them to be the sweeper, the other two should cover in a diagonal move the two strikers, and no matter if the two strikers have an attacking midfielder behind them, these three central defenders should stay always in a compact, cohesive, and defensive line. They should never be exploited in the wings, they shouldn't push up, and they should stay always in a very diagonal and cohesive play. Despite the numerical 3-on-3 situation, these three central defenders are not exposed because the wing backs are always helping. The central midfielder is always playing in front of them, and even if the two strikers are isolated, the whole team unit is helping the three central defenders to play tight, and their space is restricted either from the full backs, either from the sweep. Now we could see how the wing backs are moving. The blue team is playing now 4-3-1-2. This formation is very delicate and it has a very big similarity with 3-5-2. 4-3-1-2 has trequartista, has only one player in the wings, and the defensive midfielder is playing in a very similar mode like the sweeper is playing in 3-5-2. So the fullbacks should always stay close between them, and also they should be diagonally closed with the two fullbacks, as well as with the central midfielders. No matter where is the ball, this central axis, this and this up there or there, should be very close and very tight. In this situation, 5-3-2 is now playing ideally 4-3-1-2 because the fullbacks are restricting the space. No matter if 4-3-1-2 has some numerical advantage, 4 against 3 in the midfield, they cannot penetrate our box. Their fullbacks should push up a lot. Their central midfielders need to run, and even if Trequartista makes a third striker from this diagonal space, the situation is blocked. Even if they penetrate to the box without playing them in the most crucial defensive zones, so whole secret on moving the fullbacks is to stay compact with the central defenders, with the diagonal move of the midfielders, like this, and to be in appropriate symmetry with the two strikers. It doesn't matter if they play too deep or if they play too attacking. It's important whole unit to have diagonal tight cohesion. Whole team needs to push up in a rational way, and fullbacks are helping the most, because if fullbacks are exposed in this height, they would have immediate mismatch in their side, and the team wouldn't be united in the space in order to hit in the counter attack, which means we would be exposed from the opponent. We would have constant pressure on our own side, constant pressure on our box, and we would never practically be benefited of the three central defenders that we always use. In this situation, theoretically, the fullbacks are exposed. But precisely because we have three midfielders, we have this move. And no matter where is the ball, no matter where is the opponent, the fullbacks should always have a tight support from the midfield, a tight support from the central defenders. The sweeper should organize the whole movement from the back line, and even if the central defender is exposed like that, even if we have an overlap, the fullback should always be in a tight position, and the opposite back should close like an extra defensive back in the side. So we have this kind of situation. Even if the opponent is using 6 players on our box, he cannot find empty space to make a man-to-man advantage and to score. Now let's see the most crucial part, and this is how the central midfielders are moving in the space. I prefer now to give you a very real and pragmatic example from real football. With blue team is national team of Italy from the recent opening game of Europe against Spain 1-1. Spain was playing with this formation. They had a wide back four, they had 3 midfielders that they were moving constantly, they had 2 very fast wingers, and the lone striker Fabregas was a false 9. So, no matter if Mata and Pedro, no matter if they had superiority in the midfield or in the axis, they couldn't penetrate. The reason is that Spain was pushing constantly in the midfield by using 3 players, by using Fabregas as well as a false 9 and as an extra attacking midfielder, but they were open on the back line, and mostly they couldn't use their attacking handicap on the sides, because by using 4 attacking players against 5-3-2, by using 3 attacking midfielders and 1 for striker, you have, as you could see here, a very big diagonal mismatch, because you are forced, from the same reason, to play as well with only 1 attacking minded player in the side. The wingers are push-upping constantly, but at the same time, Spain was too open and too empty on the central space. The 2 strikers could help immediately the 3 midfielders, so precisely because of the deep central play of Italy, 5-3-2 was like a fortress. The fullbacks were covering exceptionally, and the 3 midfielders were always close and tight. This is a secret. The central midfielders should never play on the wings, should never push up on the wings, should never cover diagonally in the wings. They should stay straight and strictly in the midfield. It is like you want to break a home without having the hammer. The hammer is here. The three midfielders should stay always compact with respect to the position of the central midfielders, and by staying compact in the center, you need to move only a little bit away from the position when the team is moving to the side. When the right back is moving to the side and the ball is in this position, whole team should use this chance to close back as a unit, which means the three midfielders are the engine, the mind, and the processor of the team. You need to have these players very tight. They could exchange position, like this, for example. You could see them in some kind of this position, but always the strikers need to be synchronized with their moves. In other words, the central axis of the team should be totally synchronized without neglecting the move of the fullbacks. So Spain had numerical advantage, possession advantage, but Italy made the same clear-cut chances, was more dangerous than Spain, because Spain on the transition game was very weak because they opted to play in the width. They didn't respect their central axis. They were playing constantly. Xavi and Iniesta were becoming attacking box-to-box players by helping in the wings. Pedro and Mata were always isolated, and Fabregas had to be tight, had to be an extra playmaker in order to help Busquets. So we had easy counter-attacks, Casano Balotelli, Casano Di Natale. The fullbacks didn't have some particular problem because the wide players didn't have any defensive responsibility to exhaust the fullbacks. The three midfielders were always close, and with the support of one central defender or with the support of the fullbacks, were always 4 against 4. But in this open space of Spanish defense, we had two strikers moving without any pressure in the empty space. And the game finished 1-1. Spain couldn't use the numerical superiority and the territorial superiority in an efficient way. For the same reason, Italy lost in the final with such a margin, because they didn't respect their initial successful formation, they didn't respect the initial successful central game, and they never respect the open space that Spain gave plenty to them. So this would be an excellent probe for the final, but instead it was just a successful experiment till the final. And for the same reason, for the same misrespect of the space, Italy lost the final with such a big margin. For the end, I would like to introduce you the moves, the defensive moves of the central strike. Theoretically, the central strikers seems to be isolated, but as you could understand before, they are always extra midfielders. They move constantly as a pair in the sides. They move constantly in a diagonal attacking move and defensive move as well. So the first defenders are the true strikers. They need to push up in a rational way. For example, we have a counter-attack situation. And we are forced to push up the defenders and to steal the ball, which means we're in this situation. Even if the opponent are playing so tight, the two central strikers should play in a kind of asymmetry considering the ball. If the ball is in this space, the one striker should be an extra midfielder, and the second striker should be unmarked and to be between the two stoppers. He shouldn't be in this position, or in this position. He should be in the gap between the two stoppers. If the ball is going directly here, the striker remains on the line of the offside, and the second striker is making the unmarking move from this position, or by being just a little bit in front of the player, in order to receive the ball from here, from every space and play the counter. From the defensive side, we have seen that when the ball is in this position and some of the back are exposed, immediately the striker should become an extra diagonal playmaker in the side, which means he plays like a ballader on receiving the ball and launching the counter-attack. Or if we have a very big numerical disadvantage in this territory, like this, the striker becomes immediately the central playmaker and the other striker is staying just a little bit behind the two stoppers. These situations are rare to occur, especially the last one, but the previous situations, by having a striker in this position, the second striker plays close to him, and the three midfielders are moving in this position, is a very rational and productive play. Because if the striker is forced to move too far away, or if he is forced to move like a diagonal attacking playmaker, that means that our central axis and that our diagonal symmetry is disorientated. For example, in this situation, in this disorientation, the second striker is forced to move in this position, and even if he's resting, the other striker should be moved in the same position as well. So we have a very good indication, which means our striker is running too much. We have two facts: or our team is disorganized, or we don't have any particular attacking play. Have this picture on your mind because it's the best example to remember how to play and how to defend from Alpha. It is the ideal example to understand how to tight the space, how to hit in the counter, and mostly how to cover your defense without being exploited from any kind of counter attack. In this diagonal block, all the players are playing very tight like pairs. In this side, in this side, in this side, in this side, in this side. This is the so-called double seven. You have 7 different double pairs in every side of the pitch, no matter if it is from the side or in the central part. Now, it's crucial to see the types of pressing. Most of us, we believe that 4-3-3 is an attacking display which gives us an organized and efficient play. To be honest, it's the opposite. It's an anarchic formation which advocates the wingers to play like striker, and it's a formation that encourages fullbacks to become wingers. So we have always diagonal mismatch in the center, in the sides, in every kind of the pitch that you could imagine. I use constantly 4-3-3 as an example because 4-3-3 in theory has extremely good theory, extremely good balance, but it's very hard to apply it. It's very hard to play it properly. It's very hard to play it in a rational or balanced way. You play 4-3-3 either too defensively, either too attackingly. And 3-5-2 is using all the opposite ingredients, all the opposite mentality than 4-3-3. 4-3-3 is using broadly from all the teams, either like an attacking 4-3-3, either like a strict 4-2-3-1, either like a 4-3-3 with just one central midfielder, either like a 4-1-4-1. So here is a base that all the teams plays pretty much in a similar formation. And now I will show you why the types of pressing are so important. For example, 3-5-2 can be used even with aggressive pressing, even with mediate pressing, even with defensive pressing. In the defensive pressing, we have the team playing solid. This is actually the so-called deep lane catenaccio because whole team is moving like a chain, regardless where is the opposition. But deep pressing is allowing the opponent to play constantly with several players in your own half, in front of your box, and sooner or later you would hit me in the counter attack. I don't recommend to use this formation with deep pressing because if you use 90 minutes this deep pressing, you will be exhausted, you will be psychologically disorientated, and you will be as well kind of frustrated by having constant, massive defensive destroying game. This deep pressing should be used when we lead by 2 or 3 goals, when we have a very limited time and we have to keep the result or the qualification. And this deep pressing shouldn't be used more than 5 or 10 minutes during the game. No matter if we have 1-1, 2-1 or 3-0. This deep pressing is recommended from the laws of physiology and psychology to be used at most 10 minutes per game. From psychological point of view, is depressing and distracting. From tactical point of view, this is not permitted. From technical side of view, as technician, I consider it totally pathetic and unproductive. It shouldn't be used more than 5-10 minutes during the whole match. Now let's use a simpler example on how to use pressing mediano, which means pressing in our half in the midfield. There are several mediano pressing. This is the typical mediano pressing. You have your team 15 meters away from your goal post. You are very well organized in your own half, and sometimes you are or a little bit more defensive, or you become a little bit more attacking. You shouldn't be exposed from your box more than 10 meters because the opponent is using constantly the chance to break the offside rule, is using constantly the chance to restrict your build-up in the center, and you should be easily exposed in the counter attack. It's like you asking me why we shouldn't play with the 5. Because mediano pressing is helping us a lot on covering the space, hitting the counter attack, but we should use it very rational, tight, and very careful. By using mediano pressing appropriate, we uncover our weekly work. The teams which are playing mediano pressing with efficiency, synchronization, and exceptional position play are these teams which are playing very well 3-5-2. They are working very hard during week. They have a coach who is knowing to play the tactic, and generally these are the all-around mature teams to play 3-5-2. It's not about having versatile players, it's about having versatile synchronization and pressing as a unit. So mediano pressing should be very careful. It should be used most of the game, but it should have variations on the diagonal covers. You need to use plenty of imagination during the diagonal attacking space. For example, you need to make this pressing an aggressive play, so you need to be very dynamic and aggressive and strong in the tight markings in the axis. And also you need to be flexible with the use of the fullbacks. The fullbacks, even if one back is too exposed, the three midfielders should make the appropriate diagonal move in order to avoid any danger in the backline. The backline should play always like this type. We have seen, for example, the libero to be a little bit forgotten, and the other two center defenders to be forced to play a little bit on the side like fullbacks. But the three midfielders are the mind, the engine, and the whole mentality of the team. So this is an appropriate diagonal situation on 5-3-2. Because no matter where the ball is going, goal team is using the space in order to hit in the counter attack. I saw you before the game Italy against Spain 1-1. The advantage in territory and the possession can never be from its own a margin for victory. The victory team, the team which is going to the victory, should have always the most stealing balls in the central axis. For example, in the match PAOK against AEK, it finished just 1-0 for PAOK, but PAOK stole 21 balls and AEK stole just 7. And that game happened 1 week ago. It happened last Saturday. So stealing the balls means a guarantee and a very strong and pivotal step towards a victory. Now I would like to show you the attacking pressure. We see several teams which are playing 4-3-3 in a massive way, in a massive defense. They play very tight. They play always in a very dynamic way. But they are forgetting that they are restricted on hitting in the counter attack because we are using our three defensive units, the stopper. They forget that our two fullbacks could also be 5 midfielders or 5 defenders, because 3-5-2 has a unique advantage in the transition game. We couldn't say how many times we would have easily 5 defenders, easily 5 attackers. That's why I always say to our coaches, keep your fullbacks in such a way in order to become easily 5 midfielders, in order to become easily 5 defenders, no matter in the defensive or attacking transition. So we have the 2 strikers which are moving with an asymmetric way. A lot of people think that the 2 strikers should play as a pair, very close and very tight. But close and tight can happen only in tango. Close and tight pair is only for tango, not for football. One striker should make the big move, and one other striker should make the small move. The small move is for the box striker, the big move, attacking move is for the peripheral striker. So you have the fullbacks who are playing in this attacking play, no more, let's say a little bit here. The three box-to-box players are pushing very close. The left fullback is becoming an extra stopper in this side. So we have a proper mismatch. The two stoppers are in confused. One stopper should catch this, one stopper should catch this. So we have immediately one box-to-box player. Two against only one. Because this guy is forced to catch our Kazan here. So one stopper is out of the game. The fullback is forced to catch the other fullback. But the other fullback, precisely because he is coming from behind, he has the advantage or to run here with overlap or to cut off the ball here. The other box-to-box is moving here. So, a typical situation of making goal with aggressive play. This guy here is making cross. The defender cannot catch the second striker. This striker is going to the box, the second midfielder is going to the box, and the third midfielder is going to the box. So we have immediately three players directly into the small box against one and maybe 1.5, because even if the defensive midfielder is playing very close, the other two midfielders are forced to be focused in the midfielder zone. So in the central defensive zone, we have the biggest advantage, because our opponent think I need to force them to be outplayed here, but they forget, they neglect that football is playing in the box and in the box, thanks to our midfielders, thanks to our diagonal moves from our striker and from two box-to-box players. We have a numerical advantage, 3 against 1 and 4 against 2, because our opponent is using just two stoppers. So one stopper is isolated on catching our second striker, our box striker is one, we have second player, which is one box-to-box, one midfielder, and the second midfielder is becoming a third player. We have a very strong triangle in attack, and they have 1, 2 players, 3. But only one is influencing directly. This is forced to be isolated because he cannot have the intelligence to become a third stopper, and the proper stopper is isolated. That's why you make a diagonal move a little bit outside from the box in order to isolate the stopper. And that's why I always say that the central defensive midfielder in 4-3-3 should become always the extra stopper, never the extra midfielder. This is the ideal situation of making an easy goal. Now I will show you the last part of our video. I showed you something similar in the introduction, but here I will make a more precise and detailed analysis. This is the so-called baricentro, which means in which kind of the pitch are located our midfield line, related to our defensive line and to our attacking line. Baricentro mediano is the ideal connection for the midfielders, for the central defenders, for the striker, for the defensive team axis. In this photo you see the proper and the appropriate defensive or normal barycentro. Because it seems to be a little bit defensive because the central midfielder becomes an extra deep line playmaker, like Andrea Pirlo. But for this reason, you have ideal cohesion in every space, in every part, in every area of the pitch. Which means our midfield line is orientated in the middle. We don't have, for example, attacking barycentro, which is in this situation. We don't have very defensive barycentro or defensive, which is in this situation. And barycentro is the central weight of our midfielders and the central connection of our midfield line regarding the defensive and the attacking line. I recommend to all the coaches to prefer the most flexible and attacking way, which is this one. This is the most flexible and attacking way without using attacking barycentro. This playmaker will become a box-to-box and directly we will have two defensive players in front of him. This second striker will be very close to the playmaker and we have like a 3-4-1-2 which can become easily a 3-5-1-1 because your midfield unit is very tight and the defensive midfielder becomes easily playmaker or box-to-box thanks to our tactical flexibility from the midfield and from the second striker. The second striker is always a kind of player like Jovinko, Casano, Tevez, Aguero. A fast player with good technique and a good sense of the ball, who is also unable to become a playmaker, unable to become a second striker, but he never needs to be an attacker from the side. He never needs to be a winger. He plays a central delicate role in order to help the attacking runs of the midfielders or of the fullbacks. He runs 10 to 15 meters in the side and 10 to 15 meters in diagonal runs from the back, from the side, and from the central lines. He is the second playmaker in our team. The first playmaker is playmaker Di Basso, and the second is our attacking midfielder, which is the second striker. You never make your central defender, your sweeper, a playmaker. If you make him to be forced like a playmaker, you have just two stoppers with big gaps. And even if the fullbacks are covering, you have extremely huge mismatch on the side, on the reverse side, on the weak side. The weak side is the side that does not play the ball, and you have immediately setback on the defensive transition. So never ever make your third stopper to be an extra midfielder. In this way, by using Mediano, barycentro, we have a rational play, no matter if our back is to attacking. You use very nice your central defenders as an extra block. You use the left fullback as an extra midfielder, and you see we have now a 4-4-2. From the same formation, we have a 4-4-2, and we have a 4-3-3. The one striker is moving a little bit on the wings, and if the other fullback is going to play in this position. From the same formation, we have 4-4-2, 4-3-3, and we could also have a rhombic. We have a 4-3-1-2, can also have a diamond. Only by respecting the space. This player, when we have diamond, is a right back. We have again back. The left back stays in this diagonal cover. The attacking midfielder is becoming back, the third midfielder, and immediately we have a great transition on 5-3-2. this is not something extremely difficult. It's about working on symmetry, teaching the symmetry, be very specified and dedicated to the trainings, and be very serious and simple. You need to instruct, to apply, and to work in similar way. Now I will give you some very simple examples, exercises on how to set up three on the back line. You use several games in front of your box with three players. You use the midfield as well, and you play in a restrictive space from this box till here. You use the formation 3-5. The opposite team that you train is using also a similar formation, but is using 2-5, not 3-5, which means they play with numerical disadvantage. And you have only two small goalies in this side, like this, and in this side, which means if the team with numerical disadvantage is making a goal, it counts like double. So they are also very tight in the back. They have 5. We have 5, but we have an extra stopper. They have 2 strikers, but we have immediately 3 midfielders. So we have 3 and 5, 8, and they have 5 and 2, 7. So they constantly exchange roles, they constantly exchange positions. Also, after 5 or 10 repetitions, which means every repetition is like 10 minutes, you make your unit like this, and you restrict the space from the wide side. The rules remain the same. Also, you could make the team to has an advantage and to play similar, 8 against 8, but only by using 1 or 2 task play. And this should be used several times. Also, for teaching the principles, you could have 3 against 4, by playing in front of the box. They would be forced, all of them, to use their mind, and also you could play on the beginning 3 against 3 in the learning phase. I could show you several other examples, but I would pass in some other very practical direction. You have a 3-5-2 against 11 against 11. This is 3-5-2. We would use also 3-5-2. And you make this easy task. You play in the first 65 meters of the pitch. 11 against 11 for 25 minutes. You restrict initially the space from the wings, and you give them unlimited touches through the pitch. You use 2 big goalposts in 65 meters. The players should move diagonally and should be very tight in the central axis. And the second part of exercise is to separate these 65 meters in 3 zones. So every 20 meters you have a zone. In this drill, the team which is not as a unit in every zone is conceding a goal, which means if we have the ball and we need to attack, whole team should be in every zone. For example, the ball is here. If whole team is not as a unit in this area, we have a goal. Our opponent as well, which means the Reds have the ball. So if the Reds have the ball here, whole team should be as a unit in the next zone from behind, which means when we attack, we should be in the same zone, and when our opponent has the ball, whole team should be in one zone behind. You see, the Reds play here, but we shouldn't be the blue in this zone when we defend. We need to be in this zone. When the blues are making the attack and the ball is here, whole team of blues should stay in the same zone. Maybe the strikers could be a little bit forward, but whole team should be compact in this area. So thanks a lot for having the patience and the attention to hear this video. I hope that you would have plenty of information and plenty of tasks, and I'm glad for talking to you again about 352. Bye. Ciao.